Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Lucidity and Beyond, where we dive into the world of lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, and beyond. I'm your host, Haley Lynn, and it is so good to be back, guys. It has been a year since I have done this podcast, and to be honest, I only did one episode before this. And so this is kind of like episode 1, okay? This is a whole new era. I feel like I have went through such a life shift since I started that last episode, and it makes so much more sense to start this up now, as I'm now settled in my new place. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you may see that I'm in a completely different place. And this is something I've been working towards for like 6 years. I've been wanting to move to Washington for so long, and it finally came to fruition. And I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that, how Dreamwork and manifestation really helped me get to where I am, and how you can do it too, how we can bridge the gap between where we are and how we can create the life of our dreams. And, you know, it really all started with daydreaming about who that version of me was. Now, when I say manifestation, for me, that means gaining clarity on the life that I desire and looking at who that version of me is in that reality and the differences between who I am now and that version of me. And that is kind of where I've been the last year, is really focusing on this shift and getting out of all of that old energy from where I was. I've lived in Utah my entire life, and so this was something that I knew I was called to do, but I had no idea when it was going to happen. And I'm not even kidding. Even though this is something that I've been working towards for so long, it all came in at once. And that's one thing I also want to say with creating the life of your dreams, that if you're someone who is desiring a shift or a change in your life, we can only see 1% of our reality. Our physical eyes can only see visible light, and there's so much more being created underneath the surface that we don't get to see. And I feel like the more that you focus on like cultivating the version of you that you desire to be, it's like you magnetize that reality to you. You don't have to go out and search for it and try to find it. You just assume the consciousness of the version of you that is in that reality. And just practicing that, you'll start to notice that your desires start to feel more familiar. They don't feel as far away as they did. And so for this episode, getting back in, I just want to chat with you guys about that journey, the past year of shifting into this reality and how I use Dreamwork to get there as well. And we're going to start with kind of like a clean slate as far as the format on this podcast, and we're just going to see kind of where it goes. I do have a Google form where people can submit their experiences and questions, and that form will still be up. But as far as the format of what this podcast is supposed to be, I think we'll kind of discover that together over time. So let's talk about what has been going on this last year. So a ton has been happening, and I feel like the universe has really been clearing out a lot of stuff in my physical life to help me prepare for the shift. Like before I even knew that this was really coming in at the time that it did, I had, I just felt like I was kind of going through a period where everything that wasn't meant for me anymore was kind of just falling away. And this includes people, this includes, opportunities or desires or things that I thought that I wanted. And this past year, I've really just been kind of figuring out who I am now. I feel like this past year I was in this void where I would outgrew the life that I was in, but I wasn't yet in the new life that I'm creating. And so it was this really uncomfortable period of fear, worry, and just adjusting to a change that I didn't even know what that change was yet, And again, I've been wanting to move out of Utah for so long, and I didn't know that I was meant to move to Washington. It kind of showed me. So probably 4 or 5 years ago, I had a friend that invited me to go fly out to Washington to kind of help her move. She was going to be moving to Utah, and so she invited me to fly out there and basically go on this big road trip through Oregon and Washington and all through California to, say goodbye to her family and to drive back to Utah where she was going to be. And, I hadn't even flown on a plane by myself at that point. And so it came to me at a time where I was asking to be pushed into something bigger, to confront any fears or discomforts that were coming up, to challenge my comfort zone. And so when we make these requests or these desires known, keep an eye out for what happens next, because it may seem like it's not connected to your desire or the life that you're building, but I promise you, the universe is always listening. And on top of that, as soon as you say your desire or your want, your subconscious mind, its job is to find evidence of the things that you tell it. So our subconscious mind obviously can't think for itself, and it takes in all of the information that we give it. And so whether you have affirmed that you have bad luck or you've affirmed that miracles happen every single day, you're going to experience the proof or the evidence of that in different ways. It's not that those things just appeared there, but it's you've kind of concentrated your subconscious on finding evidence of whatever you believe to be true. And so I definitely believe that this experience, was connected to me finding that new level of myself. And even though it was scary and I've never done anything like that before, I decided to say yes. And I always thought, I wanted to live in California or something. I feel like everyone, not everybody, but a big majority of people want to live on the West Coast, and California in particular. And I just didn't really know where I wanted to end up. That was just kind of maybe an idea that I had. And after flying in to Portland and driving with her to the place that she was staying, something felt completely different. Like, I felt like I was seeing a whole new reality as soon as we got to, I don't even know where in Washington it was, but I'm telling you, it was like I stepped into Wonderland, a whole different world. And that may sound dramatic, but I'm telling you, it felt exactly like that. I'm from a place where, it maybe rains for 10 to 30 seconds. It's super, super dry. There's not a lot of nature going on. And I didn't really have friends in Utah either. I was doing my own thing, just focusing on work. And so I definitely took up this opportunity, even though it was so, full of fear for me. But as soon as we got to Washington, we got to the place that we were staying, just the way that the lighting was, the way that nature lived so loudly, there was just something so different, and something inside that was telling me this is it. And I just remember while I was there, I was texting my boyfriend, oh my goodness, we have to visit Washington together. He was never there at that point either. And that trip just triggered this new desire where I knew I found where I was supposed to go. And after that trip, that's what I focused on, Washington. I would watch anything that I could about Washington. Every single night I'd fall asleep, I would imagine that I was, walking through the forest in Washington, and I was watching the sky and just even all the mundane things in my house in Washington. Someday when I live in Washington, I can imagine he's going to get the mail or taking my dog on a walk, doing the dishes, and I just started to familiarize myself with this new reality, because before this, I was in a tiny little apartment and I ran my entire business in that little apartment up until now. And I've had my business for about 6 or 7 years, and it was all in that little apartment. And so it felt so like different to imagine myself in not only this completely different space, but this big house somewhere I've never been. And that's one thing you're going to notice when you start to imagine greater for yourself, or you start to desire a new reality, is you're going to notice fears come up. You're going to notice doubts. You're going to notice your brain's going to give you all of the reasons of why you can't do something. Your mind, rather. Let's make the difference clear. Okay, I just want to pop in really quick and say this to clarify, because sometimes I can catch myself using the brain and the mind interchangeably. The mind uses information from the brain to create thoughts, and the brain responds to the mind. So the mind will use your memories, experiences, it will use what it sees, in the current moment, and create thoughts and conspiracies and random fears and ideas. And whichever ones we attach to and emotionalize with, that emotion is what triggers the brain to respond. And that's where our feelings come from. So it really all does start with the thoughts that we entertain and the thoughts that we choose to create, and our emotional connection or our meaning to those thoughts. So the mind uses the brain, and the brain responds to the mind. Okay, back to it. It's your mind that lies to you. All of those thoughts we have throughout the day, they don't really have any basis in reality. They're really just conspiracies about the unfolding moment and what could happen next. And when we identify with the mind, that's where our suffering comes from, because we start to identify with all of these limitations that don't actually exist, and that's part of the process to creating the life that you dream of, is creating clarity, setting those bigger goals, but then noticing what comes up inside of you. Because I believe that what comes up inside, that's your work. Your work is being brought to you when you dream big enough. Your work is going to be whatever emotions come out, whatever beliefs come up that you didn't know were there, And so my mind started to provide me with all of the reasons why I could move to Washington. I don't know this, I'm not educated in this and this and that. And guess what? All of those fears that come up, that's kind of, you can make that into your little to-do list. And it's important to write out your fears, because it's important to write out everything. Let's be honest, your desires, your fears. But it's going to be really difficult to understand your fears, your limitations, your thoughts, if you don't see them from an outside perspective. And it's really difficult to make sense of our fears, make sense of our thoughts when they're not written down. I mean, we think, 65,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And a huge majority of those thoughts are not true. They have nothing to do with what you're capable of or where you're going. It's a lot of the time it's just noise. And once you give your mind a space to express itself, so on a piece of paper, you're going to notice, number one, your mind's going to get quieter because it knows that you're paying attention. And so now you're not going to be worrying all throughout the day, because you've kind of given your mind a space to express its worries. So I find that that's really, really important to do. But also, you're going to see your fears and worries for what they are. A lot of your fears and worries are going to come from just not knowing what's going to happen next, right? A lot of my worries and fears are really just anticipation-based. And again, we all don't know what's going to happen next. That's part of the beauty and this mystery of life, really. But we can control who we are being, and we can cultivate this version of ourselves that can handle whatever happens next. And that's something also to tell your mind when it presents you with a limiting thought. For example, like, I can't handle this. If you tell yourself that you can't handle something, think about how that feels to the mind. Also to the brain, it's going to think that something is about to go wrong. It's going to put you in fight or flight. You are now telling your brain, like, I will not survive if this thing happens. And so we really got to be careful with the words that we use with our brain, because I'm telling you, just like one thought can create a really uncomfortable feeling in the body, we can also use our thoughts to create gratitude, fulfillment, abundance, peace, excitement in the present moment. So get used to writing out your desires, notice what fears and thoughts come up and write those out, and then you can begin to work with them. And this is really the most efficient way to create the life of your dreams, is by getting clear on what that even looks like, so you can actually accept and find the opportunities that lead you closer to that and tap into the ideas that lead you closer to that, but so you can create the version of you that you desire to be from the ground up. And really, it all comes down from what I found is how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. Those are all things that we can control, and that's really what makes up our personality and how we handle situations. And if you can create a new version of you based on how you desire to think, act, and feel, it's going to get easier every single day. I find it's really important to make space for your worries and your fears and whatever thoughts come up, because not only will that help your mind become quieter and really help you see your fears and worries for what they actually are, but now it gives you space to actually choose how you want to think, how you want to feel, and how that version of you in that reality behaves. And the only way that we can really see that is through awareness. Get really good at watching how you think in situations, what feelings certain situations bring up for you, and just ask yourself, how would that version of me that I am wanting to merge with, whatever that version of you looks like in that reality, start using them as a measurement for where you're going, based on how that version of you would think, feel, and behave. And again, once you become aware of a limiting thought, it's a lot easier to change it because you're now aware of it, it's a limiting thought, and now you have the power to choose a new thought. And if we think a thought enough times with an emotion attached, that will become a belief. And a lot of the time, the emotion connected to it will come over time just by repeating a thought in your head. So, for example, if you have a thought that you don't love yourself, right? That's going to feel probably very true for you at some point in your life if that's something that you're working with, right? That's why you believe it, is because it feels true. But anytime you notice that pattern come up, interrupting that with a thought that you want to think about yourself, and anytime that limiting thought comes up, just replacing that with that new thought and giving that thought equal airtime, you will notice the more you do it, the more that you commit to it, it's going to feel more true. You're going to reach a neutral place eventually where you're in between your old belief and your new one. And that's the place that we want to get to. I promise you, the neutral place is where we can start creating on that empty canvas. So this past year, I really started thinking about my Washington self, what that version of me is like, because I've never met her before, and it's kind of interesting because if we think about it, time obviously is not linear. And so that version of you is living right now. That version of you is experiencing that reality right now. And I feel like just practicing tapping in your consciousness to that reality and just playing, daydreaming, imagining, like seeing how far you can push your imagination. What is the best, absolute, most ideal reality look like for you? Like if anything was possible, if magic was possible, what does that reality look like? Start playing in those fields, start daydreaming about that, because your brain can't tell the difference between something that you're imagining, something that you're thinking about, or something that's actually happening. Your brain doesn't even know the difference between dreams and reality. So whatever we create in consciousness, we can create the version of ourselves in this reality where that is true. And again, it's all an inside job. If we allow the external environment to create a change inside, we will always be stuck in this loop. But if we can use our internal environment to shift how we perceive, think, and feel of the outside, that's where that new version of us is cultivated. And I've really been focusing on this for the last year, because once you finally open up to feeling whatever wants to come up, all of that shit that we push down that we don't want to feel, once you finally allow all of that to come up, it will work through you and it will integrate. All of this pain, all of these wounds, this suffering from past situations that we've held on to, it's only still there because of the thoughts attached to it. You know, the soundtrack that's keeping those thoughts going in our mind, how we're attaching to them, the meaning that we give them, and resistance, you know. And I think the biggest thing for me was to stop resisting how I feel, especially with history of anxiety that would come up over literally the smallest things. And I feel like eventually I started getting anxious about feeling anxious, and I started to like anticipate the anxiety, and then that would cause even more anxiety. And so I think the biggest thing for me was to just get used to feeling, just get really good at feeling my feelings. Whatever wanted to come up, it's okay. I'm going to allow it to be there. Whether it was anxiety, whether it was sadness, whether it was excitement. Maybe I was super, super hyper and unhinged and I like couldn't get work done. You know, I should honor that also. And so it's just allowing whatever wants to move through you to move through you. And once I decided to allow that to happen, I feel like there was a sense of safety inside that allowed all of the buried shit to come up. That's why trauma is created, really, is because we don't feel safe enough to express and like integrate the experience as it's happening. And so we basically store that inside of our body. The time, the place that it happened, the thoughts and feelings that we had in that moment, even if it's a version of you that was 8 years old. You know, if you never processed or integrated that experience, when it comes up, you will feel like your 8-year-old self again. And most of us will, you know, it's our tendency to judge that, to try to control how our emotions come up. And, you know, we have preferences of how we want our emotions to come up. And I think just holding loving space without having any preferences or judgments on what that should look like allowed that like little me to feel safe enough to feel everything. And I'm telling you, there was stuff coming up that I haven't even thought about forever, like tons of, you know, situations that happened throughout my life, even really small ones that I just had an emotional tie to. And that really shows you that our body does keep score of the things that we go through, and the only way to allow them out is to let them out, you know? And it's important to know that you're not the only one that feels the way that you do. We are not alone. Like, the things that we're feeling are such a normal part of being human. And that's our only job here, is to experience what it's like to be a human. You know, you're enough as you are right now. You don't have to try to find something or become someone to be worthy. I think realizing that you're worthy and you're enough right now as you are, without even having to achieve anything else, that's the most important thing to realize, because it kind of allows a lot of the other judgments to kind of fall away on how we need to be in the moment, or if we're doing enough, or so on and so forth, you know? So just get really good at feeling. If you need to fucking cry, let yourself cry. If you need to laugh, let yourself laugh. If you're super pissed off about, you know, something that happened 5 years ago, let it out. I promise you it won't continue to create, like, replay in your head if you actually give it full space to express itself the way that it wants to be expressed. And for me, journaling is a huge help with that, because how often do you catch yourself overthinking, right? About everything. And those thoughts have nowhere to go, really. They're just cycling in our head over and over and over. And so you'll notice once you finally give your mind space to express itself, a lot of the time it doesn't have as much to say as you thought that it did. It just wanted to be heard. It just wanted to be, you know. And it's very important also, so our thoughts don't sit replaying in our head. It's important to let your mind know if it's true or not, you know, and to give it some extra feedback. A lot of the time your mind just needs to see the opposite side of the perspective, and you will feel a shift in emotion immediately. A lot of the time we just think something's going to be too difficult or too stressful, or, you know, and then we create this huge disturbance inside. And how often have you done that and then went through the situation and realized, oh, there's actually no reason for me to stress at all? Like, it went totally fine, dude. I have that moment all the time. I always go through that. And so even when you're, going through a stressful situation, just tell yourself, this is going to be so much easier than I think it is. And notice how that feels. Just that shift, just that one thought switch. And it changes everything. So that's really the way to rewire your brain and to become this new version of you, is anytime you notice that limitation come up, those thoughts, like, of course, make sure that you're giving them space to express themselves, but then ask yourself, who says this is true? What's the evidence that this is true? And you're going to notice your mind go quiet, because a lot of the time it doesn't have evidence for the things that it thinks are going to happen next. And then it will go away. Once you show your mind that it doesn't actually have evidence that that's how it works, or you provide evidence that it works a completely other way, or that it's way more fun than we believe, again, your subconscious mind will listen to whatever you tell it. It'll be like, oh, okay. And you will start to be able to defuse yourself in situations where you completely lost conscious control of how you wanted to think, feel, and behave. So on top of all this mind management work, I could talk about this forever. It's now taking this to the dream realm. Like, how can my subconscious now show me what I need to see in a new way without me consciously trying to overthink the whole process? That's what's beautiful about Dreamwork, is we are being shown something. We are in this state where we are the witness. And your dream world is the territory of your subconscious mind. And everything within the dream realm, I really do believe, represents something on some sort of level. Especially the dream characters, for example. I believe that those are all of our internal archetypes. Your inner creativity, your inner anger, your inner child, your boss-ass business self. I believe that we can use our dreams to connect and explore so many aspects of ourselves and our archetypes and our emotions and our creativity. And what's cool about the dream realm, especially if you get lucid, is you can consciously have conversations with these aspects of yourself. And even if you've never had a lucid dream before, just falling asleep and making the intention to see what you need to be seen or what you need to see, your mind will show you. And if you're someone who isn't remembering your dreams right now, let me give you a couple tips so we can, get you to remembering your dreams. So everybody dreams. It is a natural part of our biology. If you sleep, you dream. And if you're dreaming, then you can absolutely learn how to lucid dream. So if you are not remembering any dreams right now, the first thing I'd recommend is to just note if you are smoking a lot of cannabis, or if you are taking any medications that may suppress REM sleep. Those things can halt our dreams. Our dreams happen in REM, or rapid eye movement, and we go into this stage 4 to 5 times every single night. And if we are smoking a lot of cannabis, or we are taking substances or medications that suppress our REM sleep and put us in a deep sleep, you'll notice that you don't remember dreams in the morning, or very, very little. And that's very, very normal. Again, if it's with cannabis or just substances and you can play around with the usage, definitely experiment with that to see how it affects your dreaming sleep. But of course, make sure that you are doing what you need to do to stay healthy and to be feeling good. So on top of that, I'd say the biggest tool, 100% the biggest tool for Dreamwork is the dream journal. Your dream journal does so much more than just act as a place to write down your dreams. Your dream journal is a memory building tool. And so it actually helps you build dream memory over time by using it. And it also helps us spot patterns in our dreams that we can use to get lucid. It helps you spot signs that you're dreaming, and it allows you to decode the symbolism within your dreams and speak to your subconscious without even having to be in a lucid dream. So how to start using your dream journal, especially if you're not remembering dreams. A lot of people say, why the hell would I start trying to write down my dreams if I'm not dreaming right now? That kind of seems like doesn't make sense. Well, your brain has 3 main jobs, and that is to seek pleasure, reduce pain, and to be efficient. If it doesn't think you get pleasure out of dream journaling, if it thinks it's a painful experience, or you see it as a chore, or it thinks you're not going to use your dream content to write it down, then it's just going to save time and energy and not bring your dream memory to the conscious mind. Using your dream journal is kind of what shows your subconscious mind, okay, I'm ready to start working with my dreams. I'm listening. That's kind of what the dream journal symbolizes to your subconscious. Every single morning, I definitely recommend just keeping your notebook by the side of your bed. That way you can grab it easily in the morning, because you'll notice, maybe you have experience with this, you'll remember your dream, and as soon as you get up for the day, it's completely gone. So it is best to write your dream down as soon as you can, right after you wake up. Just write down the date, the time, and the corner, and then write down what you dreamt of. And if you didn't dream, write that down. I didn't dream. I remember dreaming, but I don't remember the details. I don't remember dreaming, but I remember I woke up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Whatever you can remember from your sleep and dream period, that's what you want to write in your dream journal, because that shows your brain you're looking out for dream content and reporting whatever happens back. And over the next week or so, maybe shorter, maybe a little bit longer, usually it's about a week and a half, you will start receiving things to write down literally from your dream space. Maybe the first night that you actually remember dreams again, you just remember a little snippet of a dream, right? Make sure to write that down in your dream journal, and it will double the next time and just keep building. One problem that people have after they start using their dream journal is they're like, dude, now I'm dreaming so much. They're like, I can't write it all down. I don't have time to write all of this down. And so just summarize it. It's kind of like if you were explaining a dream, or not a dream. Dreams are so on my mind right now. It's like if you're explaining a movie to a friend that they've never seen before. You would summarize the most important parts, the plot, the theme, right? And then anything, important to note. Can be the same way with your dream journal. You don't have to write every single detail down, but of course, the more you write down, the more information you're going to have about your dream space, the more you can look for dream signs or patterns within your dreams. And it just helps build your dream memory overall. But one thing that may also help is if you really want to capture all the content from your dreams, just start a little voice message with yourself, like little Facebook Messenger or something. And just use that as your personal place to record your dreams, audio form, and then you can also, just transfer them to your dream journal. People ask me a lot if they need to have a paper journal. It's not necessary at all. I say the most important thing is that you're writing down your dreams. So whatever form that comes in, I would say is good, as long as you're writing them down somehow. But I will tell you that it is easier to build dream recall using a paper journal, and it's also easier to access your dream content using a paper journal. Because a lot of the time, we use technology that has blue light, which can kind of stimulate our brain to kind of be more awake. So this is why if you're scrolling on your phone at night, you kind of have a hard time falling asleep, it's due to the blue light, and it's basically a false sunlight that's telling your brain, oh, it's time to stay awake. Or it's time to wake up, whatever it is. And so if you grab your phone as soon as you wake up out of a dream, you might be able to record it. You might not lose your dream content immediately, but it will be harder to access that memory because you're waking your brain up so much more quickly. Right after we get out of bed, or right after we wake up, our subconscious is kind of going to the background, and our conscious mind is starting to be, become more in the forefront. And so it's best for dream recall wise anyways to wake up slowly. If you wake up before you open your eyes, just kind of think about the things that you dreamt about and where you were, just kind of reinforcing the dream content before you open your eyes, and write it down just so you don't forget it. But really just showing your mind that you care about your dreams and you want to work with them, I'd say is the biggest thing to start to stimulate that dream recall. Once you start building up your dream recall, that's where all of the fun really starts, because now, again, you can start decoding your dreams. You can start looking for opportunities to get lucid, and there's so many ways to dive into that and to talk about that. So we're definitely going to be talking about that, obviously, in future episodes. But without even having to be lucid, there's so many ways to do inner work with Dreamwork. And there's so many ways to combine your personal development work that you do in the daytime with your dreams. Your subconscious mind will show you what you need to see. It will show you your current emotional state, what you're worrying about. All of that will show up in your dreams. And it's such an incredible state that is just, you literally get to explore your own personal wonderland. And everything in that wonderland has some sort of connection to you and can speak to you in some way. And I'm telling you, even the weather means something about you and your internal environment. It's so, so, so cool. And again, just pick up that dream journal. Just make an intention before you fall asleep to remember your dreams. And if you need a good phrase or affirmation, my favorite one is, tonight I'll remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall. That seems to definitely work for me. Just again, it's really all an inner game. People affirm all the time, oh, I don't dream. Oh, I don't dream. Everybody dreams, but not everybody remembers their dreams. And if we continue to affirm like, oh, I don't dream at all, then again, what does our subconscious do when we give it information? It tries to look for evidence that that's true, right? And so the biggest thing is to switch what evidence you want your subconscious mind to look for. So before bed, I will remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall, or whatever you want to say, And just the consistency with the dream recall is more than enough to get you to start having spontaneous lucid dreams. I feel like once you really start working with lucid dreams, maybe meditation, and just exploring different techniques for accessing dream states, that opens you up to spontaneous out-of-body experiences. And a lot of the techniques for getting out of your body are very similar to lucid dream techniques. And so you can kind of learn both skills together in a way, if that makes sense. And liminal dreaming, that's something I can't wait to talk to you guys about as well, because that's one of my favorite practices. And that helps with meditation, lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences. It's really the practice of maintaining awareness on the edges of sleep. So it's literally dreaming while you're half awake, half asleep. And it's super incredible. Dreaming is not just so black and white. There's a spectrum of states of consciousness, there's a spectrum of dreams that we can experience. Even deep sleep, there's literally dreams we can experience in deep sleep. You can learn more about this by studying sleep yoga. But it just shows us that there's so many ways to explore our consciousness. And I think that is, why else would we be able to do that? The universe wants us to, right? Why in the fuck would we be able to experience all this trippy shit for no reason? There has to be much deeper meanings than we're seeing. And I really think that it is to help us fulfill our own missions in this experience. I think it's all leading us back to who we want to be, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to show up or bring value into the world. And again, all it takes is just being open to experience it. Awareness is more than half of the game, whether it's for desiring a change in your life, becoming aware of limiting beliefs, wanting to work with your dreams, wanting to change how you handle your emotions in situations. Once you become aware of something, you can't go back to when you didn't have that awareness. So we're always learning, growing, and changing on the journey. And I believe that dreaming is a big part of what will help us create the life of our dreams. We have constant opportunities throughout the day to practice being this new level of us that we desire to be. But it all starts with clarity, because if we don't have clarity on who we want to be, how we want to feel, what that day-to-day routine looks like in that reality, it's going to be very hard for your brain to look for opportunities to get you closer to that. Once you decide that you want something, part of your brain's job is to figure out how to get you there. So even if you say, okay, I want to start making this much money in my business, you're going to notice that now your brain is more aware of opportunities or ideas or people or things that will actually help you get to that goal. A lot of the work isn't up to you to consciously do. It's just creating the clarity and awareness around that thing and moving throughout your day in a way that gets you even a little bit closer to that. The hack, I feel like, to that is by adopting that ideal version of you as often as you can. And we'll have to dive into that more in a future episode too, because there's ways that I recommend to kind of craft that ideal version of you. A lot of the time we don't dig deep enough or we think too small. And so we really experience, that we live in a magical world once we actually just dare to dream big enough. We're like, oh shit, I didn't even think that would happen. I was thinking so small, What if whatever you thought or dreamed of happened exactly as you dreamt it? I guarantee you'd start thinking bigger. What if I told you the universe could actually work that way? That miracles and blessings are super normal. And as soon as you start believing that they're normal, your mind is going to look for evidence that it's true. So start dreaming bigger, start thinking bigger. And I promise you will be led to the life of your dreams. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to rate and review the podcast. And if you are looking for educational content on dreams, spirituality, and everything in between, make sure to check out my main channel, The Lucid Mystic, and check out my second YouTube channel, The Lucid Mystic Sleep Music, for nightly ambient binaural beats sleep music. All right, guys, I love you so much. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, I'm wishing you endless love and endless lucidity.